What's up you guys, it's Deep over here and today I'm going to show you how to give this glossy candy effect to your text in Photoshop. Also, if you want to learn how to do such cool things using Photoshop, then smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. So without wasting any more time of yours, let's get started. So the first step we need to do is create a new document. So for that, go to File and then select option New. After that, set the width as 1280 pixels, height as 720 pixels, and then set the resolution as 72 pixels per inch and then click on OK. Now once the new document has been created, after that we need to type in our text. So for that, select horizontal type tool. And then after that, select any font of your choice. Download link for the font I am using is in the description below. Also, if you don't know how to install font in Photoshop, the link for that is in the description as well. After that, set the style of the font as bold and then set any appropriate size for the text. I am setting it as 400 point. After that, set the foreground color as black, which will be the color of our text. After that, click on OK. Now after that, using horizontal type tool, click on the document and then type in any text of your choice. After that, click on the stick icon to place it. Now once your text is ready, after that we need to place this text at the center of the document. So for that, press Ctrl and click on this background layer, which will give you the selection of the background layer as well as keep the selection of the text layer as well. After that, select Move tool and then after that click on Align Vertical Centers. After that, click on Align Horizontal Centers. So now as you can see, the text has been placed at the center of the document. After that, make the text layer active by clicking on it. Now after that, I need to increase the size of each letter so that it looks perfect when we give a glossy candy effect to this text. Now in order to increase the size of each letters, click on Add Layer Style option and then select option Blending Options. After that, select the option as Stroke. After that, set the size of the stroke as 10 pixels. Set the position as outside. Set the blend mode as normal and opacity as 100%. After that, set the color of the stroke as black and then click on OK. So as you can see, the size of each letters has been increased. After that, click on OK. Now after that, let's convert this text into a smart object so that we can change it later on easily. So for that, right click on the layer and then select option Convert to Smart Object. Now after that, I don't want to keep the background as a plain simple white color. So for that, let me just unlock the background layer by double clicking on this lock icon. After that, click on OK. After that, click on Add Layer Style option and then select option Blending Options. After that, select the option as Gradient Overlay. After that, set the blend mode as normal, opacity as 100% and then click on the icon of the gradient layer, which will give you a new pop-up to set up a gradient. After that, double click on the left color stop and then set the color of the left color stop as follows: F0, F0, F0 and then click on OK. After that, double click on the right color stop and then set the color of the right color stop as follows: D0, C7, C8. After that, click on OK and then click on OK. After that, set the style as linear, angle as 90 degree and then set the scale as 100%. So now we have a nice gradient in the background. Now after that, I need to add some dust particles to this gradient in order to make it look more proper. So for that, select Pattern Overlay option. Now after that, set the blend mode as normal, opacity as 100%. Now for the pattern section, the pattern which I am about to set is a custom one. Download link for that pattern is in the description below. Now if you want to load that pattern, then all you need to do is click on the drop down section. After that, click on the gear icon over here and then select option Load Patterns. Now after that, navigate to the path where you have downloaded and extracted the pattern and then select the pattern and then click on the option Load. Let me just click on Cancel since I have already loaded it. Now if you want to view the name of the pattern along with the icon, then all you need to do is click on the gear icon and then select option Small List. After that, from the pattern, select the option as Dust and then let me just minimize it. So now as you can see, now the background is looking proper. After that, click on OK. Now after that, make the text object layer active by clicking on it. Now after that, we need to create 3 more duplicate copies of this text object layer. So for that, press Ctrl or Command on Mac plus J 3 times. After that, make the original text object layer active by clicking on it, and then hide the rest of the 3 duplicate layers which we have just now created by clicking on the eye icon over here. After that, let's start by creating the base layer for our candy gloss effect. So for that, let me just rename this layer as bevel and emboss base layer. In order to create the base layer for our candy gloss effect, click on add layer style option and then select option blending options. Now the first thing we will be doing over here is giving this text a nicer color. So for that, select option color overlay. After that, set the blend mode as normal and then click on the color option and then set the color of the text as follows: E7, E1, E1, and then click on OK and then set the opacity as 100%. Now once we have given the color for the text, after that select the option as bevel and emboss and then set the style as inner bevel, technique as smooth, depth as 100%, direction as up. Set the size of the bevel and emboss to 35 pixels. Set the soften to 0 pixel. After that, untick this use global light option and then set the angle as 80 degree. After that, set the altitude as 30 degree. Set the gloss contour as linear. Set the blend mode of the highlight mode to screen. Color as white and then set its opacity to 100%. After that, set the blend mode of the shadow mode to multiply. Set the color of the shadow mode as follows: B7, A0, A0. After that, click on OK. Now let me just show you the before and after of this bevel and emboss. So this was the before and now this is the after. Now once this step has been done, after that click on the inner shadow option and then set the blend mode of the inner shadow to multiply. Set the color of the shadows as follows: 9B, 88, 88. After that, click on OK. Set the opacity as 75%. Untick this use global light option and then set the angle as -90 degree. After that, set the distance as 3 pixels. Choke as 0% and then set the size to 8 pixels. Now let me just show you the before and after of this inner shadow option. So this was the before and now this is the after. After that, click on OK. So now as you can see, now we have the base layer for our glossy candy effect ready. Now let's start with our next step. So for that, make the first duplicate text layer active by clicking on it and then unhide it by clicking on this checkbox icon. After that, reduce the fill of that layer to 0%. Now we have created this layer in order for us to create the highlights for our glossy candy effect. So let me just rename that layer accordingly. Now in order for us to create the highlights, click on add layer style option and then select option blending options. After that, select the bevel and emboss option and then set the style as inner bevel, technique as smooth, depth as 100%, direction as up, and then set the size of the bevel and emboss to 60 pixels. After that, set the soften as 0 pixels and then untick this use global light option. After that, set the angle as 90 degree. Set the altitude as 70 degrees. After that, click on the drop down for the gloss contour. Now even if you want to see the names of the gloss contour along with the icon of the contour, all you can do is click on this gear icon and then select the option as small list. After that, select the contour as cone inverted. After that, set the blend mode of the highlight mode to screen, color as white and then the opacity as 75%. After that, set the blend mode of the shadow mode to multiply. Set the color of the shadows as follows: B8, A1, A1. After that, click on OK. After that, set the opacity of the shadow mode to 15%. Now let me just show you the before and after of this bevel and emboss. So this was the before and now this is the after. So as you can see, all the highlights have been created. Now after that, the next thing we need to do is select the inner glow option. So now after that, set the blend mode of the inner glow to overlay. Set its opacity to 25% and then set the color of the glow to white. After that, click on OK. Set the technique as softer, source as edge, choke to 0% and then set the size to 5 pixels. After that, click on the drop down of the contour and then select option as cone. So now let me just show you the before and after of this inner glow. So this was the before and now this is the after. After that, click on OK. So now once we have created the highlights for our effect, after that we need to create the stripes for our candy. So for that select rectangle tool. After that click on the color icon of the fill option. After that click on this color palette option and then set the color of the fill as FF8080. After that click on OK. After that set the stroke as no stroke. And then using rectangle tool create a rectangle as follows. After that change the width of this rectangle to 15 pixels. Now after that we need to create one more rectangle, so for that again drag as follows. Now after that set the width of this rectangle to 40 pixels. After that using move tool make sure that the space between the two rectangles is somewhat similar. After that again select rectangle tool. And then using rectangle tool draw the third rectangle as follows. After that set the width of the third rectangle to 5 pixels. And then using move tool make sure that the space between the second rectangle and the third rectangle is somewhat similar. So now these rectangles are now looking proper. After that we need to merge the three rectangles which we have created into a single layer. So for that press shift and then click on the rectangle 1 option, which will give you the selection of the two layers as well as give you the selection of all the layers in between. After that press Ctrl or Command on Mac plus E in order to merge the three selected layers into a single layer. After that we need to create the duplicate of this rectangle layer by pressing Ctrl or Command on Mac plus J. After that using the move tool place the rectangle as follows. Press shift while moving in order to move it in a straight line. So like this way you need to create the duplicate of this rectangle layer and fill the whole document as follows. So now once you have created the rectangle layers, after that we need to place this rectangle layers properly so that the spaces between the two rectangle layers looks even. So now in order to place it evenly, go at the bottom and then press shift and then click on the first rectangle layer, which will give you the selection of the two rectangle layer as well as all the rectangle layers in between. And then select move tool and then click on distribute right edges. So as you can see, once you click on that icon, the spaces between the two rectangle layers looks even now. After that we need to merge all the rectangle layers into a single group. So for that press Ctrl or Command on Mac plus G in order to merge the selected layers into a single group. After that let's create a duplicate of this group by pressing Ctrl or Command on Mac plus J. Now let's rename the original group layer as backup. In case we need something, we won't have to start from scratch. Now let's hide this backup layer by clicking on the eye icon and place it at the bottom of the layers. After that make the group 1 copy layer active by clicking on it and then rename that layer as stripes. Now after that we need to convert this group into a single layer. So for that right click on the group and then select option merge group. Now after that we want that this stripe section should only be visible on the text and not on the background layer. So now in order to do that thing, right click on the stripes layer and then select option create clipping mask. So as you can see, the whole stripe section has been removed. Ideally it should have been displayed in this text section over here, but it is not getting displayed. Now in order to bring it back for the text section, make the glossy highlight text layer active by clicking on it. And then again click on add layer style option and then select option blending options. After that select the blending options customs option and then untick this blend clip layers as group checkbox. After that click on OK. So as you can see, once you untick that checkbox, the stripe layers become visible. After that again make the stripes layer active by clicking on it. Now after that we need to rotate this stripes layer a little bit. So for that press Ctrl or Command on Mac plus T in order to bring back the transform tool. Now after that from one of the corners rotate this layer as follows. Now once it looks proper, after that click on the stick icon to place it. So now as you can see, by adding this stripes layer, it has started to look like a candy. Now after that you need to change the blend mode of this layer to linear burn. After that we need to add that dust kind of effect to this layer as well. So for that click on add layer style option and then select option blending options. After that select the pattern overlay option and then set the blend mode as divide. Set the opacity as 100%. After that, click on the drop down of the pattern and then select the option as dust. After that, set the scale as 100% and then click on OK. So now as you can see, it is looking proper. Now after that, the next step we are going to do is create the highlights for some of the edges of the text over here in order to make it look more glossy. So for that, make the candy copy tool layer active by clicking on it. After that, unhide it by clicking on the eye icon and then reduce the fill of that layer to 0%. After that, let me just rename that layer according to the effect we are trying to achieve. In order to give the glossy effect and the highlights to the edges as well, all you need to do is again click on add layer style option and then select option blending options. After that, select the bevel and emboss option and then set the style as inner bevel, technique as smooth, depth as 100%, direction as up and then set the size to 30 pixels. Soften as 0 pixel, untick this use global light option and then set the angle as 70 degree and then set the altitude to 60 degree. Now for this gloss contour, I have created one custom contour. Download link for that custom contour is in the description below. And in order to load that custom contour over here, all you need to do is click on the drop down option and then select the gear icon. After that, select the option as load contours. After that, you need to navigate to the path where you have downloaded and extracted the contour. After that, you need to select the gloss contour option and then click on load. After that, select the contour as gloss contour and then set the blend mode of the highlight mode to normal. Set the color of the highlight mode as white and then reduce the opacity of the highlight mode to around 25%. After that, for shadow mode, we don't need it over here, so let's just reduce the opacity of the shadow mode to 0%. So now let me just show you the before and after of this bevel and emboss effect. Now in order to observe the bevel and emboss effect, you need to observe the edges of the text. So this was the before and now this is the after. After that, let's add some dust particles to this highlight. So for that, click on the texture under the bevel and emboss and then select the pattern as the dust pattern. After that, set the scale as 100% and then set the depth to 10%. So now once that has been completed, after that click on the inner shadow option and then set the blend mode of the inner shadow to linear burn. Set the color of the shadows as follows: 9A8787. After that, click on OK. After that, set the opacity of this effect to 10%. After that, untick this use global light option and then set the angle as 100 degrees. After that, set the distance as 10 pixels, choke to 0% and then set the size to 15 pixels. After that, click on the drop down of the contour and then select option cone. Now let me just show you the before and after of this effect. So this was the before and now this is the after. Now once this has been completed, after that select the inner glow option and then set the blend mode of the inner glow to overlay. After that, set its opacity to around 10% and then set the noise to around 15%. After that, set the color of the glow to white. After that, select the technique as softer, source as edge, set the choke to around 50%, set the size to around 27 pixels. After that, click on the drop down of the contour and then select our gloss contour which we had imported. After that, set the range to around 100% and then set the jitter to 0%. After that, click on OK. So now as you can see, our text has started looking like a candy. Now let's add some more glow to the overall effect over here. So for that, make that candy copy 3 layer active by clicking on it and then unhide it by clicking on the eye icon. After that, let me just rename the layer according to the effect we are trying to achieve. After that, reduce the fill of this layer to around 0%. After that, click on add layer style icon and then select option blending options. After that, select the bevel and emboss option and then set the style as inner bevel, technique as smooth, depth to around 200%. After that, set the direction as up, size to around 50 pixels, soften to around 0 pixel, Untick this use global light option and then set the angle to 90 degree. Set the altitude to around 70 degree. After that, set the gloss contour as linear. Set the blend mode of the highlight mode to overlay. Set the color as white. Reduce its opacity to around 40%. After that, we don't need the shadow mode for this bevel and emboss as well, so let me just reduce its opacity to 0%. After that, again click on the texture under the bevel and emboss and then select the pattern as dust. After that, set the scale as around 100% and then set the depth to around -5%. Now let me just show you the before and after of this bevel and emboss. So this was the before and now this is the after. Now after that, click on the inner shadow option and then set the blend mode to multiply. Set the color of the shadows as follows: 998686. After that, click on OK. Set the opacity of the shadow to around 20%. Untick this use global light option and then set the angle as around 90 degree. After that, set the distance as 5 pixels, choke to 0% and then set the size to 20 pixels. After that, click on the drop down of the contour and then select the cone contour option. After that, set the noise to around 10%. Now let me just show you the before and after of this inner shadow. So this was the before and then this is the after. Now once that is over, after that click on the inner glow option and then set the blend mode of the inner glow to multiply. Set its opacity to around 10%. Set the noise to around 5%. Set the color of the inner glow to black. After that, set the technique as softer, source as edge, choke to around 0%, set the size to around 2 pixels. Click on the drop down of the contour and then select the cone option. After that, set the range to around 50% and then set the jitter to around 10%. Now let me just show you the before and after of this inner glow option. So this was the before and then this is the after. After that, click on OK. So now as you can see, now our text is looking like a candy. So yeah, that's it guys. Hope you guys like this video on how to give this glossy candy effect to your text in Photoshop. Now if you guys like this video, then hit the like button. Also share it to the ones who might be interested in such videos and subscribe to the channel for more videos in Photoshop. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.